Okay, but first diving into the Note Accelerator and what it is. So to kind of recap what we've been talking about so far today, right? So market conditions today, they're different than what they were in the past, and they're going to change again in the future, right? So what we're doing today may not be exactly what we're doing tomorrow. The concepts remain the same. And even though some of those crazy non-performing deals that were available years ago are not as plentiful now, there's plenty of deals you can get with above average returns right now, right? So double digit yields on solid performing loans and even up to 20% yields on subperforming stuff. And if you have the right system in place, like if you know how to find notes, filter them, price them, do the due diligence, operate them, then you're positioned to take advantage of the opportunities that are available now. And then, the big question that everybody always has is that's great, but like, where do I actually start at the beginning of that? And that's what the Note Accelerator is all about. So it's a 6-week live small group coaching program, right? Where I kind of walk everybody through step by step how everything works, like what the whole process is, so that you can do like what Selena was just describing, which is go out and buy your first note or start raising outside funding like Albert's been doing. And so I kind of want to kick this off by breaking some myths, right? So like myth number one that's out there is that note deals are hard to find and you have to be like some kind of an insider with secret sources. I'm actually going to break this one in the following section to this, but I'm here to tell you that notes are not that difficult to find. They're pretty plentiful, and secret sources aren't really a thing. So one of the things that I like to do is search up people's entities in the various county records, and then find where their assets are, and then look back through the chain of assignments, because that tells me who they're buying from. And I'm here to tell you that for most people out there, where their notes originate from, it kind of comes from the same handful of places. So I haven't really found anybody that had this like amazing source that was selling notes because that nobody knew about. So I'll tell you what, if somebody was selling notes to individuals, they wouldn't keep it a secret, right? They would advertise that. So I want to break that one. And then the other one is that you need to spend, 30,000 plus to learn notes, and that it takes years and years and years. So a lot of real estate investing training, also in the note space as well as others, is, in my view, exorbitantly expensive, right? And so spending those large amounts of money, one, doesn't really make sense unless you're deploying, monumental sums of cash, which most people are not doing. And it's not necessary to learn that, right? Like learning notes doesn't cost the same as like a semester or a year at Harvard. That's not required at all. And then the other myth that some people get wrapped up in, because the market's changed and some of those like non-performing second deals aren't so plentiful, they think that like they missed it. And that's not true, right? I mean, I think I showed you earlier how there are a lot of good deals that you can get right now, and you'll be able to get other good ones in the future. So what the Note Accelerator is all about is a number of things. One of them is helping people like Selena buy their first note and actually get up and running. There's a lot of people that find the note world, they find podcasts and, YouTube videos, or maybe they go to a live event and they get interested. And there's a tendency for some people to kind of study and study and study, but never quite buy that first note. Once someone buys that first note, they're often off to the races. So it's a really gigantic difference between 0 and 1. And so one of the things I help people with is getting to that first one so that they can begin rinsing and repeating the process. The other thing I help people with is making their deals more profitable, right? So we do this through, well, one, making sure we have a clean deal, that, title's clear, there's not like liens that we're not aware of that's going to eat into our profit. But then we do it by making sure we're pricing appropriately and understanding what our likely costs are going to be. And then on the operations side, we do this by efficiently setting up forbearance and modification agreements, grooming and maintaining our portfolio every month, not letting things fall through the cracks. Because one of the, you call it unfortunate things, is while we're going to hire a network of vendors and they're going to do most of the work for us, this isn't the kind of thing where we can just pawn everything off to the vendors and everything's going to happen, right? We have to follow up. So there's things that we can do to control our returns. And then we also want to learn how to scale, right? So like I keep saying, one of the nice things about Notes is once you do one and you get the process, it becomes easier to do more. The trick is, as you do more notes, you got to make sure that you're being efficient with your time, right? Now, when you do your first deal, you're going to spend more time on it, as you should, right? It's the nature of the beast. But as you get more comfortable with things, you're going to want to need to go more quickly. So if we want to build up a larger portfolio, make more money, we got to know not just how to do that, but also how to do it by being efficient with our time and not letting things fall the cracks. I've known a couple of people who have bought large portfolios and scaled up and then kind of let everything fall on the floor. And you don't want to do that, especially if you're using outside money, which leads me to teaching people with how to, responsibly use outside funding for your deals. So there are so many people with money in self-directed IRA accounts and other cash outside of retirement accounts that are earning 0% and they're looking for somewhere to put it. And a lot of people understand the potential and the opportunities in the note space, but they don't know how to access them. And they've got other things going on. They're not going to spend the time to go learn how to do it. But if you show up as the operator who knows how to find notes for them and make them money, that's a super, super valuable skill that you have. Now, it's not for everyone, right? I would never, suggest this is like a one size fits all, right? So if you've already met your goals for note investing, like I know some very seasoned note investors with large portfolios, or in some cases have had like rental portfolios, they converted to notes and they're just living off the cash flow and they're good. Yeah, those people wouldn't need this. There are some people who actually don't like the group aspect. They just want to do one-to-one mentoring. So I've been working with someone doing just that recently. If you don't want the group and you just want to do one-to-one, that is an option as well. You can always just email me and I can get you more information on that. And it's also not for folks who aren't focused on doing stuff this year. While you'll have access to all the information forever, it really works best if you do kind of what Selena did, which is take the course and then start applying it, right? That's when things are going to stick and you're really going to get the most out of it. If you're like, well, maybe I'll do this 2025 or 2026, honestly, you're better off waiting a little bit to do it. But it is for you if you want someone to walk you through step by step through the process. The way this originated was, I've had the Note Launchpad course for a while that has all the information that you would need. Note Accelerator doesn't necessarily add new information other than the new content updates that I come out with on a regular basis. But this was in response to people who came to me and said, hey, Note Launchpad is great. I have all the information, but I want a little more of a community and I want someone to just walk me through step by step. And again, like if you're ready to get going now, then this is the best thing. Okay, so what's the program structured like? So it's a 6-week program. It's live. We do it over Zoom, record all the calls. So you'll always have access to those, or for some reason you miss a time, you can access the recording, or if you have other questions, sometimes I'll, be able to follow up with people one-on-one because life and work gets in the way of stuff sometimes. But the structure is 2 calls a week. And then the first call is the learning topic or the material for each week. And then the second call is what I call the office hours. So in the office hours, we can either review what we talked about the first day. It's another opportunity for people to bring questions in. Or sometimes people just have other topics they want to discuss, and we do that as well. And like I said, these are all recorded, so you always have access to them later, or you want to go back and watch these things like a year later to refresh. You've always got the opportunity to do that. And then the Note Accelerator. So the small group coaching, a lot of this is based on the Note Launchpad course. And so the Note Launchpad course is included with it. So, sorry. And the Note Launchpad course is included with it. So this is really like the encyclopedia on Note investing and the entire step-by-step system, right? So it's got the basics and fundamentals, everything in that list that I showed before, how to find deals, filter, due diligence, pricing, operating, funding, all scaling, systems and processes, all of those things. And then the other thing I include with this that's really important to me that a lot of some of those like overpriced masterminds don't is it comes with all the downloads, right? So the checklists for filtering and due diligence, deal analyzers for pricing, performing and non-performing notes. As I do bonus modules, those get added in, case studies. And then the other thing I started doing recently is alumni calls about every month or two. And so I keep recordings of those as well. And there's lifetime access to this course. So when you sign up for Note Accelerator, you get the Note Launchpad course. And then we do the 6-week program and go through it. And then when you're left, you've got the recordings from the 6-week program and you've still got lifetime access to the course to go back and review things, right? Because for example, when you're going through the course, you probably won't be in the middle of a non-performing note. So you may need to go back and review some of the workout strategies, things like that. You also get access to the private Facebook group. So this is for people who have bought Note Launchpad or Note Accelerator. So we're up over 100 members now, which is fantastic. And this is another opportunity to ask me questions anytime. And then sometimes I'll post things in here too, if they're putting in updates to the course or other events are going on. And then the alumni calls, I started relatively recently. I'm trying to do them once a month. I'll call it one to every 2 months. But in these calls, often I'll introduce updates to the course or new topics that aren't in the course. So for example, recently I added a module for bookkeeping and using QuickBooks. When I come across new sources, I'll share those as well. Or, sometimes new things I've learned, because no matter how long you've been doing this stuff, I can guarantee you, there's always stuff you haven't seen and new stuff that comes along. And then it's also another opportunity for people to ask questions, or if you've got a deal that you're working through, you want to get some feedback on, you can bring them here as well. So it's not limited to just the 6 weeks, right? There's the 6 weeks where you go through the material, but then there's ongoing support, ongoing interaction, and a community. So the curriculum that we follow. So phase 1, so in weeks 1 and 2, this is where we focus on finding the right deals. So we'll begin with goal planning, so you know where you're going, right? It's important to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish, right? Am I trying to grow my self-directed IRA account to a certain dollar amount in a certain time frame, or am I trying to grow a side income of X thousands of dollars per month? That's going to inform partially the kind of assets that you go after, and you're going to be able to back into how many deals you need to do, right? And so from there, you can start to put together your business model. And then, now you've got your target. It makes it a lot less bewildering than just running around and trying to do stuff. And then we get into sourcing. So you'll have an unlimited supply of notes. Trust me, there are plenty of notes out there. You get my sourcing list. And I also talk through a lot of my process for sourcing, which actually I'm going to share with you all here in the next section of the workshop. And then we go through the filtering process. And so with the filtering process, you can get a tape of notes from a seller and pretty quickly go in there and figure out, is there anything in there that you're interested in? And if there are, zero in on the ones that are right for you. And then we get into closing the right deals, weeks 3 and 4. So we start by pricing. So deep dive on pricing, performing and non-performing notes. You get copies of the deal analyzers. And I go through that process that I was talking about earlier about understanding risk, coming up with target returns, and then estimating costs, and then backing into pricing. And then due diligence, which is really one of the key modules. So this is the thing that makes it where you determine that it's safe to close, right? So this is where we're really going to prevent mistakes, make sure title is clear, make sure valuation is where we think it needs to be. And then due diligence also sometimes leaves us with a to-do list for after we close. For example, you might be buying a non-performing note and there's a delinquent tax bill you need to take care of that you factored into your pricing and was understood, right? But sometimes we have, things to clean up after we close. And then in weeks 5 and 6, we get into like how to actually run a portfolio. This is the thing I feel a lot of people miss, right? Because like I mentioned earlier, a lot of our return is based on how efficiently we run this, and then how far we can scale in terms of notes, and how much money we make is also a function of how efficiently that we operate. So we talk about how to get notes onboarded and get everything transferred after we fund, how to stop things from falling through the cracks with loan servicers and with the seller, making sure they follow up with assignments and the hard collateral file, and then make sure that any payments that came in during the transition make their way to you. We also covered non-performing note loss mitigation strategies. And so this is where we talk about my strategies for structuring forbearance and modification agreements so that it not only helps the borrower get back on track, but also maximizes the value of your note. And then I also talk about strategies for cash for keys, when to begin foreclosure, and a lot of those types of things. And especially on the non-performing note side, like how you handle the loss mitigation and exit strategy is going to have an enormous impact on the profitability of your deal, because one of the things with non-performing notes is they take a lot of time. And so the more time they take, more than likely the borrower's racking up delinquent taxes. You might be having to pay for insurance, your servicing costs are going. So being able to operate quickly and efficiently is going to have a bigger impact on our results. And then I go over my standard operating procedures. Standard operating procedures are just something that make it easy, right? And they save you time. Like one of the cool things about notes, loans in general, is they're kind of rinse repeat, right? Like you're going to have a loan servicer, there's an unpaid balance, there's a monthly payment, there's a remaining term, there's a borrower, there's a property that's collateralizing it, right? And there's things we do if it's performing or non-performing. There's basic portfolio maintenance that we perform every month. And so if you just have that as a script that you can just run, and then if you want to take it to the next level like I do, and you want to work with someone like Karen that helps me in a lot of that day-to-day stuff, now you can begin to really spool up your portfolio. And then we also talk about, we just went in depth with Albert about, was how to find outside funding and use it appropriately. And again, that's far more plentiful than people realize. Okay, so there's a lot of handouts and downloads that come with it. My list of sources, the filtering checklist, deal analyzers, due diligence checklists. I'll offer samples of some of the documents that I use. So some of the letters to borrowers. I like to send my own hello letter when I buy a non-performing note, to ask the borrower to reach out and try to jumpstart that loss mitigation process. I also have letters that I send to borrowers sometimes if they miss a payment, to let them know like, hey, what's going on, and do kind of an early intervention. Some of my sample forbearance agreements. So it's one thing to talk about what a forbearance with a good faith down payment and trial payment plan agreement looks like, but then there's getting the actual terminology. So you don't necessarily have to, still not a terrible idea, but you don't necessarily have to go and pay an attorney to create one from scratch, or pay a loan servicer to do that. And then also the funding documents. So if you're going to set up joint ventures or do hypothecated loans, I'll share examples of the documents that I use. I'll share sample purchase sale agreements. These are something that vary widely, but these are the agreements that you're going to sign with the seller when you buy notes, that define not just the pricing, but the transfer and the terms and all of that. So the idea is it's not just 6 weeks and done, but you're actually getting this database of resources, and then you're getting that ongoing support that I talked about. So, every week, what you can expect when we go through the topic, the way that I like to approach it is I like to start with the high level concepts, like, here's what we're trying to accomplish, for example, say with loss mitigation. And then I drill into the step-by-step procedures and the tactics. Okay, this is the concept behind loss mitigation. Here is what we are actually going to do. And then I provide examples to reinforce the learning. I think one of the areas that Note and real estate education in general gets confusing is people tend to shift around. Like, they'll talk about a high level concept and imply they're giving you the tactics, but they're not, or they'll talk about a tactic without the context of what concept. So I think by starting with the high level concepts and then drilling down and then reinforcing with examples makes it much simpler and easier to understand. And then you don't just get the checklists and calculators, but we'll go through how to use them and run through practice deals. I nearly get all that ongoing support afterwards. And again, the lifetime access to Note Launchpad. And the other great thing about Note Launchpad is I'm always adding material to that course and updating material. And so you continually get that, right? It's not like somebody's going to come back later and say, oh, well, if you want to keep that, now you can pay this. You just get it. And like I said, I do add material in periodically. This is the most recent one. It was a module on bookkeeping with QuickBooks. This actually came up at request of the last Note Accelerator cohort. So I put together a module on this. I shared it with them in office hours on the cohort and then added it to the class. And what this module does is it actually goes in incredible depth. So if you're buying notes or hypothecating notes or doing joint ventures, how to handle all the QuickBook entries. What do you do with the payments coming in? What do you do with payments that are going out to investors? And at the end of the day, if you do everything correctly, your profit and loss statement just falls out of it. So you've got a really nice document you can just hand to your tax person to do your taxes at the end of the year, and it can save you a lot of heartburn. Now, for the workshop, I'm including a couple bonuses to this. One is, in addition to Note Launchpad, which always comes with it, I'm also adding the systematic due diligence course. So this was a course that's a deep dive specifically on the due diligence piece. So it's an extra 57 modules. Now the Note Launchpad has the due diligence section. It teaches you everything you need to know. But for people who like to nerd out on this stuff and go into a little more depth, that's what this is for. And so people signing up after the workshop will get this now. And then also, if you sign up after the workshop, I'll give you a free private coaching call. So you can book an extra call with me and we can use this to discuss whatever you want. It could be setting your goals for Note Accelerator. It could be a deal that you're already working on. It could be really anything you like. And you could do it at the front end, like you could do it before the Note Accelerator starts, or you could save it and do it after, maybe once you're into a deal. That's fine. So to check this out, you can go to fusionnotes.com/live training, and I will share some of the links to this stuff in the chat. Oops. So that's how you get to that page. So again, 6-week program, 2 calls a week, some follow-up group calls, Note Launchpad. And then if someone's already in Note Launchpad, since they already bought that, then they get a $2,000 credit for that course. And if you're in Note Launchpad, you want to do it, let me know afterwards, because I have some different links that I'll send you for that. And so the price for the total course with all that stuff is $49.97. Or you can break it into, it costs a little more, but you can break it into 4 monthly payments of $12.97. But whether you do the full pay option or the 4 installment option, it's still the same 6-week program. And then it's lifetime access to all of the stuff. And I'll add those links as well. There we go. And then the third discount is, or the third bonus is, you know, if you sign up after the workshop, then you get a $500 discount on top of that. So instead of $49.97, it becomes $44.97. And so what you have to do with that is use the bonus code. Whoops, where did I put it? 500. And so just make sure you put that in when you do it to get the $500 bonus. So that's a lot of stuff for that. So in my opinion, like much more than what you get in some of these much more expensive programs. And so the logistics. So the next cohort is going to start the week of August 5th. More than likely, we'll do it like we did it last time, where the first call is a Monday, kind of late afternoon, early evening. And then the office hours call is on Thursday afternoon. We may shift that up just depending on who's in the cohort and what works best for everyone. But that's the basic game plan. So I dropped those links in the chat. Also, if you had additional questions for me after this and you wanted to chat, just chat with me about it. You can put some time in my calendar. I just threw that link in the chat as well. Yep. And then don't forget, like if you sign up by this weekend, use the coupon code 500 to get the $500 discount. And if for some reason you mess it up and forgot the discount and let me know afterwards, I can fix it on the back end. So don't sweat it either way. So highly encourage people to sign up this weekend. Actually, that's wrong. Not by the end of the day tomorrow. Sign up by the end of the day on Sunday, and then we will get that going. So cool. And then I don't know if anybody has any questions on this at this time. You can drop them in the chat or ping me afterwards. Check. All right.